Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this June 17th special meeting of the NMU Board of Trustees to order. And would ask at this time that Secretary Andrew please take the roll.
Trustee Young,
Present.
Trustee Hart,
Here.
Trustee Fatante,
Here.
Trustee Sepinen,
Here.
Trustee Holmquist,
Here.
Trustee Point Dunham, Trustee Lindberg,
Here.
Trustee Toutant.
Here.
We have a quorum present with 7 trustees present.
Thank you. And again, good morning, everyone. And I'd like to at this point ask Secretary Andrew whether we've had any requests to speak to the board.
We do. We have Mr. James Gallant, and he has been given an additional 3 minutes. So he will speak, or 2 minutes, he will speak for 5 minutes. And he is on right now.
Okay. Okay, so we have just audio. Is that what we have?
Correct.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Gallant, and you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me good?
We got you. Yep, very good.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It's sorry for the short notice. I'm James Gallant, Marquette County Suicide Prevention Coalition, and I'm also the group leader for the Community Wellness Task Force at Marisa in Marquette. Which NMU is also a member. And I'm here to ask you to please follow up on our requests. As a task force, I took on the task of obtaining an operational definition of comprehensive mental health services in Michigan. And I got that from the director of Department of Health and Human Services, Elizabeth Hertel, and I just emailed that to you. The response from her, there was a director's assignment, and it was given to an employee that gave us that. And she's stating that starting in the 2023 budget cycle, the Michigan Mental Health Code applies to all mental health services in Michigan who claim to be comprehensive in nature. Because the Mental Health Code requires that the Pathways Community Mental Health, which is our safety net provider in Michigan, is basically the mental health code, including MCL 330.1712, an individualized written plan of services. Now, where there seems to be confusion in the task force as to what the requirements of the Education Act of Michigan through the university would be for mental health services and what the mental health code, the differences are. And because the Department of Education has approved what they call the Behavioral Health Works Program, which is a 161 questionnaire and it's for case management in mental health to provide comprehensive services. And except for the Behavioral Health Services, the Behavioral Health Works Program out of Drexel University does not include the addressing the needs for legal services as required under the MCL 330.1712. And I brought this up for several years, for many years, with the Marquette County Health Department, because the Health Department also provides mental health services through the school teen clinics at the Gwynn School and the Ishmaeling schools. So there's confusion on whether the services being provided are consistent with the state law and with the operational definition of comprehensive mental health services. There's also it's called the 3E program in the schools. And I think it's the first paragraph says, these funds shall be used to provide comprehensive mental health services. So it's my understanding that the Board of Trustees here is for the governance of the university. And so I'd ask you to please request in writing a formal resolution instructing your now current president to investigate and report back to the board on how close the university is complying with the definition of comprehensive mental health services as determined by the director of Health and Human Services. And there's I think there's people on the task force from the university. They come and go. They kind of show up, and I don't know if anybody's been appointed. I would hope that you would appoint somebody, or you would appoint the president of the university to be on our task force. Because what I'm creating is a comprehensive hub system to get the resource, to be able to find the resources. You can't have access if you can't find them. So we're working on a computer database that includes all the services in the community, all across the whole state, all across the country. And in Michigan, there's 9 tenants. You have to have food, shelter, clothing, medical care, recreation, transportation, but needs for legal services. Because 63% of youth suicides are children from fatherless homes. These children all have court-ordered legal rights for custody and parenting and to share their life with the family they'll live with. And I believe that that's what's driving the rates of suicidal behavior in our society, is the denying of custody and parenting time, sharing their life with the family they'll live with when there's cases of divorce and separation of the parents for children. And this is in the ACE study. It doubles the risk of suicide, according to the ACE study. So we just need somebody to start doing it. And we're hoping that the university board here will, by resolution, give written instructions to do it. Because you had a task force before that was like, I don't know, it was Chairman Pop. They said, yeah, we're going to have this task force. It's going to be suicide prevention. It's going to be whatever. And then the guy said he wanted me to be on that task force. And then I got contacted back with him. They said, no, we're not going to be needing you because they handled that administratively. Apparently they didn't have that task force and they didn't have a suicide prevention plan at the university now. So I'm not sure where we're at on all this, and depends who I ask. So I've asked you to ask the proper people in the university, starting with the president, on down the line to who's responsible for these things to make sure they're actually happening on the frontline level. Because sending people away with an incomplete assessment and saying they're not going to address, because every county in the state, including the 25th Judicial Circuit in Marquette, has a make-up parenting time policy available by law. And all the university has to do is contact the chief circuit judge. This person is, and I believe you had some students involved recently in an incident, and parenting families, and just to say, hey, this person is stating they're not receiving what your court has ordered in the best interest. Please review and enforce if necessary. That's what mental health professionals are supposed to do under the mental health code. Get it to the place where they address those issues.
Okay.
And so I just put
Mr.
that in
Gallant?
writing and to get that done. Yes.
Okay, we've gone over the 5 minutes. Your message, I think we heard your message, and we appreciate you talking to us today.
Right. Is that a yes by unanimous consent by the chair? Is that a yes
No,
to my
it's-
request to get this formal
No,
written
it's
thing,
not.
or you put it on the
It's
agenda, or
not-
something?
no.
gonna happen next week?
No, I don't speak for, excuse me, I don't speak for the board. I appreciate your comments, and we will talk about this after.
Okay. By unanimous consent, you could put it on the agenda. So if this doesn't happen and you're neglecting the children and the people in your care, then that would be bad for the university. That would be a class action lawsuit waiting to happen. And I would
Okay.
hate to see
All
that, because we
Okay,
need that money.
thank you, Mr. Gallant. We appreciate your comments. We're
Okay.
gonna move on.
Yeah.
So thank you, and
You have a
we
nice
will
day.
move on to our
And you
next
move
agenda
on.
item. Kathy?
Have a
you wanna-
nice day. Thank you.
Thank
Move-
you. Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is new programs. I'd like to, at this time, call on Dr. Joe Lubig to talk to us about elementary education and a new program that we have in that area. You're on, Joe.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, is that PowerPoint up or am I sharing my screen?
You are sharing your screen.
Okay, thank you. Is that coming up, Kathy?
It is.
Okay. There we go. All right. So, hi, everybody. Joe Lubig, in my role as the Associate Dean for Teacher Education at NMU. Excited to be celebrating our 125th and 125th year as an ed prep institution. So thank you for attending today. We're looking at the bachelor's degree, elementary education, PK3 and 3-6. So I'm presenting this on behalf of all of our faculty and all of our clinical partners, primarily in the Upper Peninsula, all our school sites. and in northern lower Michigan. So we have revised our program. It's been approved by Academic Senate and approved by the Michigan Department of Education and our peer group in the state, specific to faculty and administrators at the 31 institutions, independent and public. So we've had a good level of review on this. We're going to prepare people now to teach in grades pre-kindergarten through grade 6. This is a slight change. What we are letting go of is a kindergarten through 8th grade with a specific major in a content area such as integrated science, English language arts, social studies, mathematics. That has changed now to be a more whole child approach, pre-kindergarten through grade 3 and grades 3 through 6. The certification curriculum is designed to meet all the expectations in the state of Michigan. And I just want to point out that our employers said it was critical that NMU offers both together. So these are technically two separate licensure areas. They will remain that way, but at NMU, we're going to get people to complete under 120 credits for both teaching certificates or both teaching licensure areas. That was really important to our employers. So our intended population is, again, elementary education candidates, people who are excited about teaching. We also designed the program to serve as a true 2+2 program with community and tribal colleges. That's important because we all know that credit hour transfers to the university. We're assuring that the credit hour transfers to the university and this program so as not to extend the time to degree for candidates. And then we also partner with all of our career and tech ed teachers and directors in the state of Michigan. And this is why we pushed really hard to be one of the departments on campus that has a statewide articulation agreement for any high school student completing a career tech ed program. They can transfer coursework right to us. This is a campus-based program with required clinical experiences, and all of those are now transparent. Every clinical hour is credit hour, so there's no hidden credits or hidden requirements for the students. Everything is transparent. You can see our bulletin description. We're preparing students for specific licensure exams similar to nursing, clinical sciences, and other areas. We have a clinical experience guided teaching practice for all candidates, co-constructed by the NMU faculty and local school educators and student advocates. So this would be traditional classroom settings and non-traditional settings such as SAIL, the Children's Museum, Peter White Public Library, Weekend College for Kids, other opportunities that present themselves. Core teaching practices, we have research-based teaching actions, 5 of them in the state that NMU had large input into. Those are all evidence-based and focus around social emotional, PK3, 3-6 student engagement. And then we still retain, in addition to all the other experiences, a required 16-week experience. So our candidates have to do 30 hours of exploration in the field, 70 hours of apprenticeship, 200 hours of flex hours where we can use conferences, SAIL, other school sites, learning sites, and then 400 hours of the 16-week internship. So before they get to student teaching, we are documenting and assessing them on 300 internship hours. I like that this really formalizes the interim strategic plan and the new strategic plan effort to really work with community partners. So this really formalizes that work. You can see our curriculum is laid out as a 75 credit major. Again, this is for 2 licensure areas and 120 credits. We made a real specific choice, listening to all the conversations on campus, to really pay attention to the general education curriculum. We have a recommended pathway for content through the general education curriculum. We really want to do more work to put value or be explicit in the value of the gen ed curriculum as it relates to students, majors, and minors. Our methods development then after the foundations, when they're getting all that general ed foundation, and I'll go back, and the foundation in teaching practice will now start using all of that practice in school sites and in their internship in Tier 4 that last semester. Our schools, great demand for teachers. We anticipate that our enrollment will continue on average to trend at 40 to 50 new first-year students and 12 transfer students and approximately 10 post-baccalaureate students. This is a dual licensure program, and you can see on that map, that visual, that we are really still in need. There's still a teacher shortage, but we're really trying to focus our program in our space, which is the rural environment. Are there any questions I can answer for all of you?
Any questions of Dr. Lubig? Greg? I think you're on mute, Greg, if you're,
I just had one.
Oh,
Is that okay? Steve?
go ahead,
Or-
Lisa, I'm sorry. Yep.
So what about 7th and 8th grade? Is that gonna be just secondary ed then? A degree in secondary ed?
Yes, Lisa's secondary education will move to grades 7 through 12. And that will focus on integrated science, social studies, English language arts, mathematics. Our special education programs, those are being revised along with our secondary ed programs this summer. So we're trying to phase things in. And Lisa, NMU's going last. This is the last possible date we can do this, and that was a specific employer request from our rural schools in the UP. Please go last so that we can start reorganizing job descriptions, start thinking about how to transfer veteran teachers into other classroom spaces and such. So we went last. We're doing the same thing with the secondary ed curriculum to give them space to restructure, because we are still primarily UP, Wisconsin border, northern lower.
Thank you.
Trustee Jutan, I think you had a question.
you bet. Thank you. Great information. I guess the question I had pertained to licensure postgraduate. Because of how it's broken out, is this two separate licenses for a teacher going forward to maintain with credits as well for those specific licenses?
So Greg, I get my PK3 and 3.6 license, and I'm teaching. You want to know how I renew that license?
Right, are they two separate, so there's two separate fees then, or is it all one, just with a internal breakout?
So after I obtain my teaching license in both those areas, I can do 6 credits of graduate coursework or state continuing education clock hours or district provided professional development, or a combination of those to renew both licensure areas at the same time.
But certainly someone's gonna have to get two licenses then,
So
if they want to maintain for the breadth of
yes,
pre-8. Okay,
yes, yeah, have to. So yes, no, we are recommending. I can't force them to get the license, but so that gets a little weird, Greg. But yeah, our recommendation is they take the exams for both, get licensed in both in Michigan. That gives them better employability skills and transferability or reciprocity to other states. Yes, but I can't force them to take the exams. It's not a graduation requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Any other comments or questions of Dr. Lubig? Checking my screen here just to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay. I don't see anything. Thank you, Dr. Lubig, for that information. And at this time, I would ask it for a motion to approve the program as presented by Dr. Lubig.
Chair Young, I'd like to move that the NMU Board of Trustees approve the elementary education pre-K 3.6 bachelor's degree program effective fall of 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, is there discussion? Trustee Fatante, do you want to speak to your motion?
I just want to say, what I really like about this is the 600 hours prior. I believe that was prior to student teaching. I think you're going to get some, what, 400?
300 hours, sorry, 300 hours prior to student teaching.
300, but that's still that's really good. I mean, student teaching, because I did my student teaching a while ago. And it's the best experience. And I think the hands-on with the kids is really, really important. I think you'll get better teachers.
Thank you.
Good point. Any other discussion on the motion? I'm not seeing any, so at this point, I would ask Secretary Andrew to take a roll call vote on the motion as presented by Trustee Fatante.
Please indicate with yes or no. Trustee Young,
Yes.
trustee Hart,
Yes.
trustee Fatante,
Yes.
trustee Sepinen,
Yes.
trustee Holmquist,
Yes.
trustee Lindberg,
Yes.
trustee Toutant.
Yes.
Motion carries with 7-0.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Lubick, for your time this morning and for your work on this program. That's very exciting, so thank you.
Chair Young, thank you to you and the board, and let's go teach like a wildcat, huh? Have a great day, everybody.
Hear you, yes. Okay, at this time, we'd like to move on to our next agenda item, which is a new program, our Crime Scene Investigation Certificate Program. And I would at this time call on Professor Christopher McMaster to lead this discussion for us. Chris, are you on here?
I am. Can you
Okay.
hear me okay?
We got you. There you are. You came up.
All right.
Yes, thanks, Christopher.
Good morning. It's great to be with you all. So my name is Chris McMaster. I'm an instructor in the Criminal Justice Department. We're excited to propose a new program, which is a Certificate in Crime Scene Investigation, or also commonly referred to as CSI. With your hopeful final approval, we hope to fully implement this certificate in the fall of 2024 semester. So I'll get started. I know I'll keep my comments brief. Just quickly on the objectives of the certificate. First, it addresses needs of students who want to pursue employment in law enforcement, investigations, as well as forensic science related fields. Students are going to develop knowledge and skills required to investigate, document, and reconstruct crime scenes and forensic evidence. It will help prepare our students for securing entry-level positions in these fields. So it's important to note that the CSI certificate that we propose is based upon existing courses. So there are no new courses that need to be developed, and there's no additional staffing or equipment costs for that. So this is really using existing resources and courses, and we've really just packaged it for students very nicely. So, and then I'll move right on to the rationale, the need. Well, certainly regarding rationale and need for the new certificate program, first, this certificate will be used as a recruitment tool to increase enrollment here at it will attract students who have an interest in solving crime and who want to work in criminal justice, law enforcement, or forensic science fields. So it will appeal to a wide range of students in a variety of programs offered at Northern, such as forensic biochemistry, anthropology, biology, chemistry, psychology, cyber defense, and of course, criminal justice majors as well. So this is truly an interdisciplinary academic credential, and it will serve to better prepare students for entry into their chosen career fields. It's going to make our students more marketable and competitive in future entry level and promotional hiring interviews. Lastly, the job outlook in this field for crime scene investigator, employment in forensic science technician field is projected to grow at the rate of 11% in the next several years. So this is much faster than average for all occupations. So that's very promising. So taking a quick look at the bulletin, this would be the language that would be shown in the bulletin. This certificate requires 16 credits. 12 of those credits are required from a range of available options to the students. And that really is tailored towards the different majors that we have looped into this. And then, of course, so they'll select 12 credits and they have options. And then lastly, they'll have 4 credits to select from electives, which will be shown on the next slide. So the bottom line is this CSI certificate is work that we're already doing, and we're really just packaging it up for students. At this point, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Chris. That's very well done. And I can't see my full screen here. Kathy, there we go. Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Chris about this, about the new program?
Yeah, just a quick question, Chris. So is there an opportunity, or are we collaborating all from the perspective of Frost to kind of help provide the certificate and edge as well and capitalize on that?
Certainly, we do have an anthropology course that is actually an option for students to actually loop into this. So that would be at least the initial course that I believe the students that go into the Frost program need, I believe. So there is, the consideration for involvement with Frost students.
Great, thank you.
There was another question I saw too. Oh, Steve, Trustee Lindbergh, sorry.
Two questions. Is this a standalone certificate? I mean, can I come to Northern and that's the whole reason I'm going to come there and I'm going to get my certificate?
That's right. It's a standalone. People can, as long as they meet the requirements that are listed in the bulletin, they don't have to be pursuing a degree. So yeah, that's right.
Okay. And secondly, is there some kind of a national or some kind of a test at the end of this that that you got this certification and you passed your some kind of a test that's independent of the university?
We are not. We don't have anything that would include that. This is simply an academic credential based on the skills and knowledge they've gained through the coursework that they've completed. So essentially, it's an academic credential they can provide so it does not have any national certification component to it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Chris, maybe one more question.
Sure.
Piggybacking off of Trustee Lindbergh. In terms of employability, so it's just a certificate, it's not attached to an actual degree. And is this, in terms of the marketplace, something that is going to provide enough stick-to-itiveness or whatever you want to call it to provide that employment for someone as well? Or is this typically an add-on for something else with a degree, if that makes sense?
This whole idea of a certificate in crime scene investigation really was. I'm retired from the state police, and I worked at the crime lab. And one of my former colleagues approached me and said, we are already doing this. And we realized that, these classes were really, and so he encouraged us to move forward with this. As far as you're answering your question directly, I guess you may have to reword the question. My apologies.
Will this lead to employability or additional employability for the students who receive the certificate, maybe to put it more succinctly?
Yep. And so to piggyback on what I had just said, that former colleague of mine at the State Police Crime Lab, he had discussed, and others at the lab talked about how this is a very desirable component to academic credential to have. It really shows those students took that effort to, further their knowledge in these fields, and they're bringing that in, and that can set people apart from others in the hiring process. So it is absolutely a real asset to our students that can successfully complete this.
Thank you very much, Chris. Good presentation.
I think Trustee Holmquist may have had a question.
I did, just quickly, kind of the reverse of what Steve had asked earlier, but if somebody pursues this certificate and then decides to continue on, I'm assuming you said this is existing coursework onto an associate's or a bachelor's degree. Is there a ladder kind of built into this program at all?
It is essentially, it can be, done in a year. It can be done in over a course of 4 years. So it's as Trustee Lindbergh mentioned, it can be a standalone for somebody that has already in the field and wants to achieve this academic credential, or it can be piggybacked with a major and a minor and or a minor. So it goes both ways. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yes, it does. I was wondering essentially if you pursue this certificate and then maybe that was your initial intention, and then
Yes.
you're now interested in pursuing an associate's or a bachelor's degree.
Yes, all that coursework would count towards, a specific major, depending on what major they were. If it's a forensic biochem, if those courses were, which they are, but of course, so yes, that would be allow for continuation.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Trustee Lindbergh,
Yeah, just a follow up, you get the certificate. Does this make you employable by law enforcement agencies? I mean, would they specifically look at, would you be, an employee that they would seek out just with this certificate, or would you have to have more of a law enforcement background? Specifically, let's say the state police, but I know that's the kind of the top of the pile here in Marquette or in Michigan. So
yeah, it definitely is it's a credential that they can, sort of showcase their work that they've done, and it kind of stands out from just their bachelor's degree or associate's degree. It's just something that stands out. In addition, that they can talk about and showcase what they've learned to advance their knowledge in that field. So I believe, and my former colleagues expressed their support of this and said this is something that definitely will help a candidate, in the hiring process. That's why we're real so excited about it. It's just another opportunity for our students to be better prepared to showcase things they've done in these courses that otherwise might not get pulled out in an interview process, in that hiring interview process.
but I think what I'm hearing is that, this certificate has most value if it's done in association with a degree program.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If you have a formal education with a bachelor's or an associate's degree, you're just going to be that much more marketable, with I believe most employers. So the academic credential is just kind of on a side note to just kind of highlight that knowledge in this area.
any other questions? I just have two quick ones, Chris, if I don't see any others from trustees. If you said this, I apologize, but does anybody else offer this certificate?
Madonna University has a similar certificate, as well as Mott Community College, at least regionally in Michigan. And so Madonna University, I'm aware that it's very regimented, very strict courses. They're very, they don't really have any choices. Where we design this so that students actually have a choice, and it's interdisciplinary, which really is a real benefit to our students in topology, forensic biochemistry, and the STEM programs. For those students that want to go in this direction, into forensics. So I think we're much more versatile in being able to allow students an opportunity to sort of tailor their courses based on what we have determined would be appropriate for a CSI certificate.
And then, will there be an online option for this, or will this be on campus certificate?
This will be an on-campus certificate. A few of the classes are online currently, but this is going to be an on-campus program, generally
Okay.
speaking.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Any other questions before we? Okay, I don't see any. So at this point, I would ask for a motion regarding the crime scene investigation certificate program.
Chair Young, I move that the NMU Board of Trustees approve the crime scene investigation CSI certificate program effective fall of 2024.
Thank you, Trustee Fattanti. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Tutat. Is there any discussion? Trustee Fattanti, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I just want to say, I really like this certification. It seems like it's needed and that it's going to give our students a little bit more employability. Is something happening?
We got some really bad feedback here, but
Yeah.
I think I heard your motion. I want to make sure everybody on the board heard it okay.
Something's going on.
Sounds like a crossover. Another line.
Okay. Hate to even say anything. Okay, do I have a second for Trustee Fattanti's motion? Do I have a second for Trustee Fattanti's motion? Trustee Tutat, it's a second. Kathy, is there anything we can do or should do here?
I'm wondering if somebody's also listening to the YouTube through this and it's doing a delay.
It seems like maybe we've worked past it here, so. Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Fattanti. And a second by Trustee Tutat. Is there any discussion? Second by Trustee Tutat. Is there any? Okay, seeing none, I would ask Secretary Andrew to please call the roll on the motion.
Please indicate yes or no. Trustee Young,
Yes.
Trustee Hart,
Yes.
Trustee Fatante,
Yes.
Trustee Sepinen, okay. Trustee Holmquist,
Yes.
Trustee Lindberg,
Yes.
Trustee Tutat,
Yes.
motion carries with 7-0.
Yes.
Motion carries with 7-0. I think everybody needs to mute, and that is the reason we're getting some feedback if you're unmuted, unless you're speaking.
Okay, I think Greg has his hand up.
I think the feedback might be coming from Greg's side. I'm seeing a pattern that when he unmutes, we seem to get the feedback. Let's-
I don't have control. I, I don't have any control. Things are going off and on all by themselves over here. Not sure what's going on.
Greg, do you want to try to call in on the
Do you
phone
want to
on a
try to
phone?
call in on a phone? I'm gonna log off and try to log back in, see if that works. I don't have my cell phone here.
We will hold on just 1 second, Greg, while you try and get back in. If everybody would just bear with us for a minute. Haven't had this issue before, so it's a new day here. When Greg gets back in, we'll start back up, everybody.
Did we take the full roll call on that yet, Steve?
I think we got through it, yes, and
Okay.
it carried unanimously.
Okay.
And Chris, while you're still on, thank you for your presentation. It's an exciting program, and look forward to some future success with this. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Thanks for your support, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Okay, has he gotten back in yet, Kathy? Because it does seem to have, the feedback does seem to have diminished now, so, or stopped.
So Kathy, how does this work? If there's a certain time frame that Greg's not able to reconnect, do we reconvene or do we?
That would be a good question for Attorney Craig.
We would still have a quorum with trustee Seppinen gone, but on an issue like budget and tuition, obviously we'd like his participation as well, but from a purely legal standpoint, if he's unable to rejoin, we can still conduct business if the board is inclined to do so.
Just curious.
Yeah.
I'm admitting him right now.
Okay. Okay, we've got him.
Can everybody hear me?
We got you, Greg. Yes.
Okay, we'll try it again.
Okay, no worries. We worked through it here. So, okay, so we had the motion and the vote and the motion carried unanimously. We will now move on to our next agenda item, which is fiscal year 2025 tuition and fees. And I would call on Vice President Gavin Leach to lead this discussion. Gavin?
All right, thank you, Chair Young. I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation. All right, can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
All right. First off, I'll go through my agenda here is we're going to walk through what the state budget proposals are at this time, talk about where we are in competitive tuition and fees, talk about our strategic budget goals moving forward, and our projected university and cost increases for fiscal 24-25. In addition, we'll provide a recommended undergraduate tuition and fee rate adjustment, as well as other detailed tuition and fee rate adjustments for the coming fiscal year. First off, when we look at the state budget, right now we don't have anything finalized. What we do have is some ranges that we're looking at as we plan for the next fiscal year. First off, on the executive budget, they had a recommended 2.5% increase in our appropriation. And they set tuition restraint language at 5% or $390.50 per semester. The House budget passed and they were at 3.3% for operations, but lowered the tuition restraint language to 4.5% or $351.50 per semester. And finally, the Senate budget passed at 2.5% and tuition restraint at 4.5% or $351.50 per semester. So when we look at that, in planning purposes, we decided to move forward at the executive and Senate level for appropriations, which is about 2.5% for planning, and the lower tuition restraint language, which we'll talk about later in the process. Now, this budget could get set anytime in the next few weeks. They have actually until September 30th to set it, and they've gotten there in other years, but our expectation is sometime maybe this month we'll get that final budget, but we need to move forward with setting our tuition and fees at this time so our students and parents understand where we are for the next fiscal year. So when we look at our tuition and fees, you can see that we're second lowest, and we've been second lowest for many years. With tuition restraint language, pretty much that's where we're going to be for the foreseeable future. We're about $606 below Lake State, and we're about $6,000 below Michigan Tech at the high end. So, we are in a range that we feel we're very competitive within the state, and for the foreseeable future, we plan to be competitive in that range. Now, when we look at setting tuition and fees, we really look at it very strategically. We look at what's needed to allow the university to continue to thrive and grow. And that's critical because right now we are in a good position. We're growing while other comprehensives are not growing. In fact, some are shrinking. Many are shrinking. And we need to continue to keep this trend in place. We believe that this has happened to put us in this position, but from strategic investments we have been making in our faculty and staff and our student success and wellness programs and our infrastructure, and in enhancing our financial aid programs to ensure all students have access to NMU. We're also making investments in our facilities to make them among the best of rural comprehensive universities in the nation. We believe that these investments are very deliberate, they're very strategic, and it's not a time to stop now. We need to continue to make those because as we look forward, there is a demographic cliff happening in the future, and we believe that if we make the right investments as we go toward that we're going to be able to go over top of that demographic cliff and continue to thrive into the future. So when we look at investments, it's really, really critical to be strategic and to maintain the momentum that we have right now. And that's the goal of the plan that we're putting forward to you today. As you can see, the primary areas are, again, maintaining competitive tuition and fees because we want to maintain our affordability and access for all students. We're making investments in our faculty and staff, removing barriers through our financial aid programs, investing in key initiatives, addressing our supply and equipment cost increases, investing in our infrastructure, and through all this, maintaining our financial sustainability and strength of the university. When we look at our investments, our first area is in faculty and staff. We made a significant increase in our faculty through our recent contract reopener. We also provided regular increases for all staff through contractual adjustments, as well as absorbing the increasing costs of benefits that we are incurring. We're making strategic investments in new positions in student success and well-being, in fundraising, athletic Title IX, which is a women's wrestling coach, and in our facilities positions. These are key positions that we feel help retain our students. They help potentially grow other future resources for the universities. And by keeping our facilities, maintenance in order, it's really creates a great working and living environment for our students. We're also looking at removing barriers to student access, and we've really been focused on this in recent years. This year, we're investing approximately $1.9 million in those programs. And a key piece of that is in our Tuition Advantage program. Tuition Advantage, we started up a year ago, and the state started the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. And what we looked at is leveraging that program with the Pell program. And basically any Michigan student that qualifies for Michigan Achievement and Pell, which are the need type students that we have for the university, we cover the difference in the tuition and fees. So they attend the university for no tuition and fees. So that's been a big program, and it's been really successful. And this year we're up about 170 students that have been awarded in this already. And that's about 23 or 114% increase in those applying among freshmen. And our Michigan Achievement Scholarships are up about 23%. So it's been very, very successful, and really it addresses those students with the highest need, especially within the state of Michigan. So that's been a key element of what we've been doing. We're increasing budgets to address increased costs for lab and classroom supplies, and also providing inflationary cost adjustments for software supplies and travel costs. In addition, we continue to invest in our academic facilities, and that's been a big effort over the last several years. And in this case, we're going to be adding on additional debt service to complete the renovations in our academic mall that we have 3 major projects going on in that area. So the overall cost of those increases is about $6 million overall. We look at what we're looking at for tuition to help us achieve those investments that we feel are necessary to move to the future. We are recommending moving to the hard dollar cap, but we're recommending moving to the House and Senate version of the hard dollar cap, the lower hard dollar cap, at $351 per semester. But this increase will remain the second most affordable in the state. That, combined with the significant increase in financial aid, NMU will remain highly accessible by our students that we're serving. And we can see this as part of one of the things that Tuition Advantage program has really helped is our UP enrollments this fall. We're seeing a big increase in our freshmen coming in this year. But we feel that we need to do this level of investment to ensure that we continue to move forward in a very strategic way, and allowing the university to grow and remain financially strong into the future. Along with those increases, we have other proposed rate increases that are in line with the adjustment for our full tuition and fees amount. One of those includes our student activity fee that increased by about $13.88 per semester. So it was $37 going to $51, and that was voted on by the students this past winter semester. So that concludes my presentation, Chair Young, and I'd like to turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Gavin. Appreciate the comprehensive nature of your presentation as always. At this point, I would ask if there is a motion for the fiscal year 2025 tuition and fees.
There is, Steve. I'd like to make a motion to recommend that the board approve the proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 tuition and fee rates as presented in the detailed materials. This will include the average resident and non-resident undergraduate tuition and fee rate increase of $351 per semester. That's comprised of the resident and non-resident lower division rate increase of $330 per semester, the resident and non-resident upper division rate increase of $342 per semester, There's also a student activity fee increase of $13.88 per semester. That was voted on by the students. And a one-time student athletic fee increase of $12. The extension online undergraduate tuition and fees rate increase be the same as the on-campus rate increase. The graduate tuition rate increase of $34 per credit. The student recreational pass fee, which is refundable, to be increased by $3 per semester. And there are some differential tuition increases. The first, art and science, natural science, and TOS for $1 per credit. And second, the business, clinical lab sciences, music, and nursing to $2 per credit. As noted, should the tuition cap be lowered in the final fiscal year 2024-25 state budget, it's recommended that we authorize the administration to adjust the tuition and fees accordingly to remain in compliance.
Thank you, Trustee Hart. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Holmquist. Is there discussion on the motion by Trustee Hart?
Yes, thanks, Chair Young. First of all, Gavin, great job, great presentation. So thank you to you and your team. I think you covered all of the points very succinctly. Since I've been on the board, started on the board back in, I think 20 it was, we have been the second lowest in tuition and fees in the state. And I think it's pretty remarkable the amount of we've accomplished being able to say that we're the second lowest in the state. I appreciate very much the continued alignment and discussion about the impact of this on our strategic goals, including the investments in faculty and staff. I think the big chunk of that is the contract renewals, in addition to the highly successful AAUP MOU that just passed. You also noted too about 1.9 million of that to remove the barriers to the financial access to the university. All of these investments, the infrastructure, it's a different campus today than it was when I stepped foot on it 7-8 years ago. And I just want to say that I think it's pretty fantastic that we continue to utilize and invest not only in the present, but in the future of the university. I think we're already seeing the results of this being yielded by our increases in enrollment, which is, I think, pretty fantastic considering if we look around at other universities in the state of Michigan. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hart. Are there other comments or suggestions by trustees? Okay, I don't see any. I would just echo what Vice Chair Hart said. I think that the slide slide that you put up, Gavin, on the strategic budget goals kind of capsulized, I think, what this board is thinking and what we're trying to do moving forward. And that really solidified a lot of this in my mind when I was going through this prior to the meeting. So I appreciate what you and your team have done, you and Matt. And what you and your team have done. And Brock, you as well, for a lot of things we're doing and what's happening around our university and what's happening in the community in general and outside of just the university. So I think there's a lot of good things going on. A lot of people are responsible for a lot of those good things, and I certainly recognize that. So, with that, if there's, just want to make sure there's no further discussion. Okay, with that, I would ask Secretary Andrew to call call the roll on the motion as presented by Trustee Hart.
Please indicate with yes or no. Trustee Young,
Yes.
trustee Hart,
Yes.
trustee Fatante,
Yes.
trustee Sepinen, trustee Sepinen, okay, he's indicated with thumbs up.
Yep.
Trustee Holmquist,
Yes.
okay, he's indicated with thumbs. Trustee Lindberg,
Yes.
trustee Tutant.
Yes.
The motion carries 7-0.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brock and Gavin for a very productive meeting this morning. And I want to thank our board members for making time to be with us today. It's a special meeting, so, and we are meeting in a few weeks up there for a retreat. With us today. Thanks to everybody for doing that. And we have no further business before the board at this point. So I move that we adjourn the special meeting of the NMU Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.